This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned.
I'll tell you, he's got
Arkansas
some cool
operated.
memorabilia in his house, and that is
GoPascal.com.
our friend Tom Murphy, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and Whole Hog Sports. He now joins us, as he does every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Tom, appreciate you jumping on with us as always. I think I want to start football this morning. Zach Williams, I think you were the one to ask him on Saturday about being a returnee. Hadn't got a chance to talk to him just yet. What did you take away from Zach's answer, being one of the veteran on the defensive line that Sam Pittman has back?
Yeah, morning, everybody. Well, Zach Williams is a cool kid just to start with. I like his kind of attitude, so to speak. Pretty laid-back kid, not your typical football player, mentality. Compare and contrast with Chris Paul, who's a kind of type A, really super aggressive sounding dude. But he said he loves his team. He wanted to improve himself for another year. He wanted to be a part of a big defensive end core, and he did talk about that as well, that, he thinks there's 3 units that they can swap in and out and not have fall off, and each guy has their own kind of strengths. I don't know. Will they have a Jordan Dominic who wasn't the most physical guy but had some beautiful pass rush moves, and that helped lead to his high sack total. Zach had a pretty good sack total as well. They have to have some depth at DN for sure, and Sam Pittman seems to like it so far.
Now, that's DN. What about D tackle? I know that 4-man front has been something Sam Pittman has said, echoed, and talked about repeatedly in the offseason. But, Tom, when you look at that defensive tackle room, are you confident that they are going to be able to run that 4-man front based on the depth there?
Well, it's a worrisome thing, and that's why when the portal opens back up at the end of this week, they would like to get a defensive tackle or 2. Here's the thing. If Cam Ball and Torian Carter and Eric Gregory are all healthy, then, that's a good starting point. You still want to supplement that. But each one of those 3, Cam Ball might miss the rest of spring with this high ankle he's got. I don't know if he'll be in the red-white spring showcase this Saturday or not. But, Carter's coming off of knee surgery. Eric Gregory had arthroscopic in between the end of the regular season and the bowl game. And, he was still a little bit slowed at the start of the spring drills. But he has been in there. And also he's a combo guy. So that's why I believe they've got some packages where some of the ends have played inside. Landon Jackson talked about that last week as well, where, they have more quick guys. Now, in a pass rush situation, yeah, that'd be helpful. But I don't know if you could do that, every down with, 1st and 10, 3rd and shorts, you wouldn't be doing that. But, they're having to test different guys at different spots and run different packages to try to compensate for that. But if they could get a run plugger, you think about the value, what Georgia has done with 300 and 310-pound dudes like Carter and several other guys the last couple of years. And Arkansas has not been able to keep 2 or 3 of those guys on campus. And so, they could definitely use a couple of 300-pound D tackles.
What do you think we'll see with the linebackers in regards to, last year and what we've seen is them use the linebackers, walk them up at times, disguise the coverage using those guys. If you go to a 4-man front, you assume you'll have 2 linebackers out. How do you think that blends into maybe a new look front for this defense?
Oh, it's obviously part of it. And I think the linebacking core is going to be super interesting because it's been this run of, the Grant Morgans, Hayden Henry, the legacy guys, and then Bumper Poole, essentially a legacy type guy. And then Drew Sanders added to that mix. And now it's going to be Pooh Paul, who, when he got his chances, he still wound up in the top 5 or 6 on the team in tackles. And that was with playing time that wasn't, bountiful. And he had some sacks in some games. He chased some guys down. I think pass coverage, you'd want him to upgrade a little, but I think he's a physical guy and he's a leader. I think he's going to be probably one of the most visible leader-type dudes on the team this coming year. But you add into it Antonio Greer, who, Sam Pittman says this guy's going to help us. And when they say it that way, you just feel like this guy's got all the ingredients. He's not a super big guy, but I think he's instinctive and physical. Yeah. And then, it gets young after that. Jordan Crook and Caden Henley, and they like their freshmen, Carson Dean and Brad Spence, 22 and 23. So those are and they're tall, bigger type linebackers. So I think the numbers are okay. They just need to get some game experience.
Yeah, because you just look over the 9 linebackers that are listed on the defensive roster. Outside of Antonio Greer, who's a transfer, the rest of the most experienced player from there has got a year under their belt at Arkansas. So, as far as experience, it is pretty thin in what you do have on paper right now.
That's right. And I did not mention Manny Powell, the Fayetteville kid, who didn't get much time because of the knee last year. So he's a super physical guy. And I'll tell you, the first scrimmage we watched, Jordan Crook had one of the best plays in it. Somebody caught like a little screen pass, and he just read it, and he flattened somebody. I think it was the play after maybe he missed a tackle or just something, and then he came back and had a really good form tackle, and I think it might have caused a fumble. But anyway, you're right. It's a youngish group, but that's why I think linebacker is one of the portal needs they have. And I think it starts with D-tackle and safety, but linebacker is in that mix as well.
When we leave the stadium Saturday or in the stream or however you watch and consume this final practice, is there going to be anything with the wide receivers that leaves you excited? I've got to believe there's probably some things they want to put into the script and into the plays that leave you pretty excited about the passing game. Do you subscribe to that kind of theory?
Well, yeah. Fans like to see that you made plays in your spring game. You don't want to come out of it and have, 3 passes that you caught that were over 20 yards. You want to have a little, ammunition, so to speak. They've been running some tunnel screens and other things like that to get Isaiah Satania the ball. I think they recognize that if you just get him the ball and you block it up well, he could make a guy miss, and then his speed kicks in if he can get into the open field. So as you structure an offense, it's about who needs to get the ball, how often, and how do we get them the ball. And I think Satania will be a guy who can not only beat people deep, just straight line, go patterns, but also the tunnel stuff that if you get him, you get hats on hats, the kid can take it to the house. Beyond that, you can tell that this recruiting philosophy that Sam Pittman and the offensive coaches he's had so far have subscribed to is taller guys. And you look back to Matt Landers and Jaden Hazelwood of last year, taller guys. This group, Andrew Armstrong and Isaac Tesla are both 6'4", and they have come along. You can see the strides they've made from practice 1 to now. Tesla, the first practice, just looked a little shaky, dropped a few balls, but, man, he has really come along. And Tyrone Broden, when he comes back, he's 6'7". If they can get him healthy, he's a guy you can throw jump balls to, fades, and all that kind of stuff. But I like the way it's coming along, and I think the theme with this is, look, all these transfer guys came from smaller programs. Can they make it in the SEC? And from what we've seen against Arkansas's corners, which I'm actually kind of low-key confident about what their corners are going to be able to do, I think they have the makings of a pretty decent wide receiver core.
Now, on the subject of the wide receiver core, you mentioned the transfers, and you also mentioned Isaiah Satania, which if I had to guess, that's probably the fan base's wide receiver that they want to see the most. But between Broden, Armstrong, and Tesla, I think it's Broden that's dealing with that injury or whatever. Which one of the transfers, Tom, are you most inclined to watch more in depth? Because I know you've seen a little bit, but you'll get to see a little more on Saturday.
Right. Well, we've seen plenty of about half the practices have been open to us to view, and I like Andrew Armstrong. And I asked Sam Pittman about him, I don't know, after maybe practice 3 or 4, because we'd seen him making some plays. He's like, yeah, he just needs to learn to play faster. In other words, know the playbook. And last week we talked to him and Tesla on the same video conference, and they're both kind of funny, and you can kind of tell it was neat for them to do the media deal. And I like the kid's frame. He looks bigger with his pads on. He's 201. But when I first saw they signed him, I'm like, that's a skinny kid. how physical can he really be? Is he going to get knocked off his routes by corners, held up, that kind of stuff? But I think to me, he's about the most physical. And we have not even mentioned Sam Bakke, who has made strides. And then you add in Bryce Stevens, who he and Satania are going to be splitting time in the slot, and Stevens is a quality receiver in my book as well. And then Jadon Wilson, who broke his leg, who Sam Pittman raved about in his first talks with us heading into spring, that he had a great offseason. Showed leadership skills and all that. So I expect Jadon Wilson to come back and seeing what these transfers have done in his absence and being super motivated. So the numbers are going to be there, and it's about KJ having confidence in hitting these guys and then making big plays in clutch situations.
Basketball-wise, got the news over the weekend that Tremont Mark is coming over from Houston out of the portal. You also got the news that Mikal Mitchell is entering the transfer portal. Jordan Walsh and Anthony Black have until April 23rd to decide if they're entering the NBA draft for the early entry deadline. Do you think Eric Musselman, Tom, has a good idea of what his roster is going to look like?
Well, I do, other than the uncertainty of who you're going to get out of the portal, or maybe some guys have made private pledges to him. I don't know, but I would think that they've already kind of polled the guys who have declared or what have you, or haven't declared, and have a good indication. The fact that Anthony Black hasn't done it yet seems to indicate that he's considering coming back, even though everything you saw and read during the season was that, oh, yeah, he's going to go. I think working on his jump shot would be a really critical part for him, because you do have to score at the NBA level. So I don't know what the final, what's going to look like. Will Devo Davis come back from declaring, maybe. So, but I assume that Eric Musselman and his staff have a decent idea. And the Mitchell thing is intriguing because Mikal, he declares, but his brother hasn't yet. So what does that mean? Don't they want to play together for another year? I don't know.
Hey, real quick before we go, Little Rock in town for a pair of games ahead of the Tennessee series this weekend. It's been a long time since you've had a regular season series, I think, as anticipated, as Arkansas and Tennessee this weekend, Tom.
Yeah, a lot of good baseball. The Razorbacks are, even though all the pieces aren't functioning smoothly as it was in non-conference, during conference, they still are leading the West, and that's with several guys not hitting as well as we thought they might. Little Rock, Chris Curry, a guy who worked with Dave Van Horn more than a decade ago, beat them 17-7 in the first game when the schools were going to start playing in-state. And so they're formidable. I know in a recent game against Arkansas, their starting pitcher had an ERA like the kid today in the sevens and did a good job, held them down for a while. So you never know. I think Dave Van Horn's going to use some different guys off the bench to get ready for the weekend. And it's all about trying to develop more confidence and more pitchers until Brady Tiger can come back.
All right, Tom, good stuff. We'll get to the baseball a little bit more in depth on Thursday when you join us again.
All right, I like it. See y'all.
All right, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, with us every Tuesday and Thursday here on The Morning Rush.
Get analysis of every play, prop, and point at BetOnline. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts.